Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bracha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter. I myself also am a mortal man like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth, that is, a descendant of Adam. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, which is roughly the time span, right? 10 months of pregnancy. Being compacted with blood. Something compacted is like it's compact, right? It's tight, it's packed, tightly packed. So being compacted with in blood of the seed of man, which is your sperm, and the pleasure that came with sleep, intercourse, right? So man sleeps with a woman, he releases his seed into her. Eventually the seed makes it to the egg, they form the zygote. Eventually it becomes an embryo and then the baby is fashioned right in the womb. It says, and when I was born, I drew in the common air and fell upon the earth. Not that somebody threw him onto the ground, but he basically came on the earth out of his mother's womb, which is of like nature. And the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do. Right? That is what babies do when they're born. Right? Usually that's what they do. They cry, and that's a good sign, actually. I was nursed in swaddling clothes, and that with cares. And swaddling clothes are this is what that looks like. Okay, swaddling clothes. Yeah, when you wrap a baby up. And also in the ancient world, it was used in the ancient world as a practice. Let's see here. Yep, here we go. So it says, swaddling clothes are strips or bands of cloth used to tightly wrap newborns from shoulder to feet. A traditional practice designed to provide warmth, comfort, and a sense of security while keeping limbs tight or slackish straight. Historically, this method involved washing, rubbing the baby with salt and oil, and binding them, signifying maternal care, and in biblical contexts, highlighting the humility of Yahweh Shai's birth. Now, it was also used, let's see, historically, for strengthening the baby's bones. It says here, historically from ancient times, through the medieval and early modern periods, which even goes before then to biblical times, babies were tightly bound in swaddling clothes, strips of linen or wool, based on the belief that a newborn's limbs and spine were soft and needed to be kept straight to prevent deformity and expose proper skeletal development. This practice involved, now let me see, instead of historically, let's say used in the ancient, when you read in the books of, what is it called, Manners and Customs of Bible Times, it actually goes into that. But it basically mentions how so you see here, it says, used from birth for several months, this practice was believed to prevent crooked limbs and maintain proper posture, often in accordance with Galenic medical theories. So going back, it says here, and that with cares. So he was wrapped in swaddling clothes, just like that what they would do for children or babies. For there is no king that had any other beginning of birth. For all men have one entrance into life and the like going out, which is through birth, right? If you come as a mortal man, you come onto the earth through being born, right? That's the passage, that's the doorway for us to come here. And the like going out, which the going out is like we all die the same way, in the sense that, as Solomon said, in Ecclesiastes, right? Then shall the spirit go back to the Father which gave it, and the flesh, would go back into the earth. That's how we die. When I prayed, and wherefore I prayed, and understanding was given me, I called upon God, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. So Solomon, personifies wisdom as like this woman, or that, which is really a spirit, the spirit of the Lord that comes to him, that he really cherishes. It says, I preferred her before scepters and thrones, before meaning above, right? So I had rather preferred wisdom above scepters and thrones, which represent rulership, and esteemed riches nothing in comparison of her. So riches, gold, silver, that was all nothing compared to wisdom. Neither compared I unto her any precious stone, because all gold in respect of her was as a little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her. So when you gold is something valuable, precious stones are something valuable, silver is also something valuable. But here Solomon is saying that in comparison to wisdom, precious stones don't even come close. Okay, in comparison to wisdom, gold is likened onto sand, and silver is likened onto clay. That's how valuable wisdom is. I loved her above health and beauty, and chose to have her instead of light. Here, and light is light is basically, like life, a life providing resource, right? We need light. Is a part of what we need to sustain ourselves, right? And here he's saying, like, basically, I chose her above health and beauty. I chose her above even some of the most essential elements. For the light that cometh from from her never goeth out, which is the light that comes from her is the guidance, right? If you look at how light works, it gives you, sight, because with light it's illuminated. You can see where you're going, and you can use it and do what you have to do. That's why we live in the daytime, right? If you really look at it, majority of the things we do, in the ancient world, people weren't as active in the nighttime as they are now. Why are they more active now? Because now there isn't that great of a difference between daytime and nighttime because of the lights, right? Artificial light. So you can still see in the nighttime, but in the ancient world, it wasn't like that. So most of the time, you would be sleeping in the nighttime, and then you would be active in the daytime because there is light. So the light that comes from wisdom that never goes out is the guiding light that leads you, into all righteousness, you could say. All good things together came to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hands. So he's saying, when wisdom came to me, she came with all good things, and she brought me innumerable, uncountable riches in her hands, which you can gain with carnal riches through wisdom, but the innumerable riches are really the deeper understandings, the mysteries of God. And I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom goeth before them, wisdom is above them. And I knew not that she was the mother of them. See, so some people desire, they desire the children of wisdom, right? They desire the traits that you can get, the fruits of wisdom, but they miss the mark in not desiring the mother. It's like if they ask you for a reward, do you want the egg laying hen, or do you want an egg? If you pick an egg, you're missing out, because okay, you use the egg and that's it. But if you have the egg laying hen, you can continually have eggs. So that's what wisdom is likened onto, right? The mother of all of these riches that Solomon compares the fruits of wisdom onto. I learned diligently and do communicate her liberally, right? So he's saying, I diligently learned of wisdom, and I speak on her liberally, right? Freely. I do not hide her riches. So I'm not trying to hoard wisdom to myself. For she is a treasure unto men that never faileth, which they that use become the friends of God, and being commended for the gifts that come from learning. See, so wisdom is like a treasure that never fails you. You never run out. You don't run out of wisdom. You can run out of gold, you can run out of silver, you can run out of precious stones, but you can never run out of wisdom, right? It says, which those that use wisdom become the friends of God, because the Lord likes those that use wisdom. When you use wisdom, you're drawn closer to the Lord. So they become friends of God that use wisdom, being commended for the gifts that come from learning. Because one that is learned is able to exhibit certain qualities and traits that put them in a high position. They're able to be prudent. They look well into their goings. They make better decisions. So the outcome of their life is greater, and they're commended for those gifts. But it all comes through wisdom. God hath granted me to speak as I would, and to conceive as is meet for the things that are given to me. To conceive is to bring forth. So he's saying here, the Lord has permitted me to speak these things and to bring forth the things that are necessary based on what has been given to me. Because it is he that leadeth unto wisdom and directeth the wise. Right, because you can't attain wisdom is not from this world. Job said that, right? I forget what chapter it's in, but let's see if I can find it. Job 28. Yeah, I think it's 28. There we go. So I'm going to briefly read through this, but I'll read it in the NLT because it's a bit clearer. So it says here, Job 28:1, surely there is a vein for the silver and a place for gold where they find it, or where they find it. Iron is taken out of the earth and brass is molten out of the stone. And the point in which brought us to this precept is understanding that wisdom, the reason Solomon said that, where is it at? Because the Most High is the one that leadeth unto wisdom, is because wisdom is not something you get from the earth. It's from the heavens. So you can't go and find wisdom like you would digging for gold, right? Or trying to refine, and make diamonds. You can't get wisdom that way. Because it's from the heavens, it has to be given to you from the Lord. So that's what leads us to this precept here in what Job is saying and making that same point. Job 28:2, iron is taken out of the earth and brass is molten out of the stone. He setteth an end to darkness and searcheth out all perfection, the stones of darkness and the shadow of death. The flood breaketh out from the inhabitant, even the waters forgotten of the foot. They are dried up, they are gone away from men. As for the earth, out of it cometh bread, and under it is turned up, as it were fire, right? Because when you get closer and closer into the core, as they say, it's hotter. The stones of it are the place of sapphires, and it hath dust of gold. There is a path which no fowl knoweth, and which the vulture's eye hath not seen. The lion's whelp have not trodden it, nor the fierce lion passed by it. He putteth forth his hand upon the rock, he overturneth the mountains by the roots. And this is dealing with how man is able to search and go places that animals can't even reach in search of the minerals and the valuable things of the earth. Verse 10, he cutteth out rivers among the rocks, his eye seeth every precious thing. He bindeth the floods from overflowing, that's creating like a dam. And the thing that is hid bringeth he forth to light. So once again, going into the extent that man goes to find and search out these things. However, verse 12, but where shall wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Man knoweth not the price thereof, neither is it found in the land of the living. The depth, which is the seas, saith, it is not in me. And the sea saith, it is not with me. You see, so Job is making the point. You can search, in the ground for gold, for silver. You can go different areas in the world and find it, excavate. But when it comes to wisdom, where are you going to find wisdom? Is there a location you can go to and say, oh, they sell wisdom over here, let me go buy some? No, right? And as it says, man doesn't know the price because it's not found in the land of the living. It's from the heavens because the Most High created it. The depth saith, so you can go underwater into the depths of the seas and they'll tell you wisdom isn't here. Verse 15, it cannot be gotten for gold, neither shall silver be weighed for the price thereof. You can't buy wisdom with money because there isn't a merchant that's saying, oh yeah, you know what, just come on here and I'll just, 15 ounces of wisdom? Okay, cool, here you go. It cannot be valued with the gold of Ophir, which is like some of the finest gold, with the precious onyx or the sapphire. The gold and the crystal cannot equate it, and the exchange of it shall not be for jewels of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or of pearls, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. You cannot buy wisdom with money, with gold, with silver, with precious stones. It's above all of that. The topaz of Ethiopia shall not equal it, neither shall it be valued with pure gold. So if that's the case, as Job is saying, whence then cometh wisdom? So if you can't find it in the earth, you can't buy it with money, how then do you get it? And where is the place of understanding? Seeing it is hid from the eyes of all living and kept close from the fowls of the air. So not even the birds can reach it, and the eyes of the living cannot attain it. Destruction and death say, we have heard the fame thereof with our ears. So even death and destruction would say, we've only but heard about the fame of wisdom, but we can't tell you where it is. God understandeth the way thereof, and he knoweth the place thereof. See that? So it's the Most High who knows the place of wisdom, because he created wisdom, and he's the one who can give you wisdom. So going back to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 15, continuing, because it is he that leadeth unto wisdom and directeth the wise, because he's the only one who knows where she is and can give you wisdom. And the interesting thing, right, the more interesting thing about this when dealing with wisdom is, you may say, well, that's not true, because I can go to somebody that already has wisdom, and then I can even pay them to teach me the wisdom that they have. But what they will be given to you is knowledge. All right. Knowledge is information. They can tell you that. Wisdom is not only information, because a lot of people know things, but it doesn't make them wise. Knowing something alone doesn't make you wise. So if you go to somebody and you're, hey, teach me what you know. Yeah, they can teach you what you know or what they know. But when it comes to actually applying wisdom, that's a spirit. So you may know what they know, but given a situation, they may actually make a different decision than you. And why would they do that? Because you both know the same thing, but they have the spirit of wisdom guiding them to make the proper decision, and you don't. So wisdom truly is a spirit that the Lord has to give you. You can't buy it. Somebody may speak of it to you, but for you to actually receive it and for it to work on your mind, that comes from the Lord. Verse 16, for in his hand are both we and our words, right? So both our words and ourselves are in the power or the control of the Lord. All wisdom also and knowledge of workmanship, right? So wisdom and workmanship is like crafts, right? All different practices, trades, and crafts. That's all from the power of the Lord. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made. So Solomon understood creation and the operation of the elements. He understood how the elements work, the beginning, ending, and midst of the times. So he understood prophecy. He understood, the beginning, which we weren't even there for. And also, the things that were happening in his time, but also the things that would happen in the middle of the times, right? Before the ending, the alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of the seasons, the circuits of years and the positions of stars. So basically the understanding how time works, understanding constellations and being able to read the heavens, all of those things the Lord gave him knowledge of. The natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts. So he understood the nature and the way that animals work, how to communicate with them. Not that he was speaking, their language, but he understood them. Like somebody that has a very well-trained animal, they can understand, what it is that their animal is trying to communicate to them. When it's angry, when it's hungry, when it wants to go use the bathroom, they can understand that. Because when you study how animals behave, you pick up certain tendencies. They do this when this, they do that when that. Like your stomach growls when you're hungry, right? You become, you start acting a certain kind of way based on certain things. When you're upset, your answers may be a bit sharper, right? You may be more quiet. These are all signs that somebody that studies you will know and be able to tell how you feel. Likewise, somebody that studies the animals would be able to tell what an animal is trying to say or convey to them. And Solomon had knowledge of that. The violence of winds and the reasonings of men, right? So the weather, he understood the weather patterns. And he also understood the reasonings of men, which is basically how people think, and the diversities of plants and the virtues of roots. The diversities of plants is the different plants, like today you would call that botany, and the virtues of roots, which is going into the herbs. And all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know. So the Lord gave him understanding of that. So Solomon had a, very great high level of understanding. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me. For in her is an understanding spirit holy, one only, manifold. So there's multiple layers to the spirit of wisdom. Subtle, they can teach you to be subtle, right? Gentle, wise, crafty, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good, quick, which cannot be letted. Letted meaning to be restrained or held back. That's Old English for to restrain or to hold back. And these are the traits of wisdom, but these are also traits they instill in those that have wisdom. Ready to do good, kind to man, steadfast, sure, free from care. Because when you dwell with wisdom, you don't really stress about a lot of things because you understand. You think before you act. Having all power, overseeing all things, and going through all understanding, which is what? Wisdom. Pure and most subtle spirits. So whatever things, remember in a previous chapter, he mentioned that she will meet thee at every thought. So in going through all understanding, that is where you get wisdom, for you to understand all the things that Solomon understood. As he says, it was taught to him of wisdom, which is really the spirit of the Heavenly Father. Verse 24, for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. Being more moving than any motion, meaning that wisdom is in everything, right? You can find wisdom in everything, right? In how animals move, in how the world is constructed, in how rain falls, in how cars drive, in how the plants grow. Everything, you can see wisdom in it. Why animals eat certain herbs when they're not feeling well. Having all power, verse 24, she passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. That's why you can find wisdom in all things, in all facets of life. For she is the breath of the power of God and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. So if she's the breath of God, then unless he breathes upon you, then you're not getting her. It says here, therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. See, so the Lord decides who to give wisdom to, and he's not going to give wisdom to one that is defiled. And likewise, wisdom itself will not be defiled. For she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of God. So she reflects, right? Wisdom reflects the power of the Lord. And those that have wisdom, they're like being in the image of the Lord, right? With those that have the wisdom of the Lord and the image of his goodness. And being but one, she can do all things. And remaining in herself, she maketh all things new. And in all ages entering into holy souls, she maketh them friends of God and prophets. So it says here, right, being one, she can do all things. So though wisdom is one, is only one spirit, she can accomplish everything, right? And remaining in herself, meaning that wisdom doesn't change, right? It stays unchanging. but yet it renews all things, making all things new, and maketh men friends with God and prophets, right? That's through wisdom. We read up above, it was either in this chapter or a previous one, about how she makes, God loves those that have wisdom. And through wisdom, the spirit of prophecy, being able to know, understand, and prophesy, that's also through wisdom, which is the spirit of the Lord. Remember, it's that pure influence. And when you prophesy under the influence of the Lord. For she is most beautiful than the sun, or more beautiful than the sun, and above all the order of stars. Being compared with light, she is found before it. So he's saying when you compare wisdom to light, wisdom is still greater than even light. For after this cometh night, but vice shall not prevail against wisdom. So wisdom is above light because after light comes night or darkness, right? Daytime, nighttime. But after wisdom doesn't come any evil. That's vice. All right, because it cannot prevail against wisdom. Night or darkness prevails against light for half of the day. But when it comes to wisdom, nothing can prevail against wisdom. So that's why she is greater than light, because though light is great, it still has its time, and then darkness comes about. But wisdom is not, struggling against evil in order for who's going to prevail. See, evil never prevails against wisdom. So she stands undefeated. And that brings us to the end of the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.